Today, we're going to solve how to get team buy-in for new software in the shop. So if you're having trouble with bringing change to your team, if they're resisting you, or if you've tried to add new software, but they're kind of fighting back, and it doesn't matter what size your business is. Some of you are just trying to get time tracking software in place. Others are trying to put ERP systems in place. Well, if you're having trouble with that, I've got a great guest. Today, I've got Cole Eklund, and you know him from Innergy. Innergy software is an ERP that large and growing millwork and cabinet shops use. Now, as you guys know, I'm trying a new format, and that means that dad jokes are getting phased out. And I know, it's true. I asked you guys for feedback at the end of last year, and I want to find ways to tighten up the episodes and get to the guests faster. It's going to be really hard to avoid the dad jokes. I mean, this one was really hard to resist. Where do bad rainbows go? To prism. Don't worry, it was a light sentence. Hey, there is a professional development tool that's going to help you make the most out of this episode. And if you want that, send me a text message and just ask me for the word software, because there's a system, there's a process you can take your team through for choosing the right software or app for your business, and one that doesn't take you down the path of just doing whatever the sales rep on the phone shows you the demo for, right? How many times have we been caught in that? Just text me, send me a text at 315-903-7853 and say software, and then we'll send you the SOP for how to choose the right software for your business. And what's interesting is it matches a lot of the things that you're going to hear Cole talk about today. So let's go over to the studio and learn more about getting your team bought in with new software with Cole Eklund. Mr. Cole Eklund, how are you?
Hey, I'm very good, Dom. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, it's good to see you. You have got quite the background there for people watching this on YouTube.
I do. Yes. Yes. It's a little busy, sorry, but you see my beautiful face right here. So
Yeah, that's what you're here for. I know
Yeah.
both you and I have very dark backgrounds today, though.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Yeah, gives us a little, maybe, is it sinister or mysterious?
No, mysterious vibe.
Mysterious.
Yeah, what are these guys talking about? Yeah, I want to listen more. Yes.
Well, I'm pretty sure they are going to want to listen more, because you're definitely, well, I'll get to the topic in a second, although I can hint at it. We're going to be talking about overcoming resistance in your organization, which you're an expert at. But before I do that, let me ask you this big question, Cole. You ready?
Yeah, I'm born ready.
Cole Eklund, who the heck are you? And how is it you come to be speaking to all these forward-facing cabinet shop owners, millwork shop owners all over the world?
Yeah, great question. Well, first off, before I answer it, I'm honored to be here. And thank you everyone listening. So my name is Cole Eklund. I've been in the millwork space for about 8 years now. I actually have a software development background. But why we're talking today, Dom, is I've happened to have the absolute privilege to work with over 300 millworkers in the 8 years that I've been here in the industry, and helping them overcome some resistance to change, right, with implementing software,
Right.
in particular. So I'm the head of implementation here at Innergy, and very excited to talk about change management in general, right? Because change, human beings are resistant to change, right? And so look forward to having a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Talk about what works, what doesn't work, that sort of thing.
And I'm glad we're doing that. And the same stress that we get when we look across our team and say, why are they so resistant to change, can also be a superpower when we've got a system that's working and they don't want to deviate from it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Absolutely.
People are naturally resistant to change, which is why we've evolved and we've lived, because being cautious isn't always a bad thing.
Right.
But it's a frustrating thing when you're the owner and you want to implement a new, in your case, you're a software expert, but it could be implementing anything new.
It really doesn't matter what it is, right? It could be software, it could be a new machine on the shop floor, it could be a new process. Yeah. And you bring in a new process and you say, well, no, we've always done mitered edges here, or we've always done the whatever the situation is. Change is scary, change is new, and human beings are resistant to it just naturally, right?
Yeah.
And so there are tools that exist out there to help manage that, really, no matter what you're trying to implement.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, let's jump into it a little bit.
let's first of all, let's talk about the impact of not getting buy-in from the team.
Yeah.
Because to me, you can only get so big as a business owner on your own. Listen, some people listening want to be on their own, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Or they want to be a two-man shop or a three-man shop. But at a certain point, when you're on a growth path, you realize that your team is one of the biggest tools that you've got.
Mm-hmm.
What's the impact of not getting buy-in from your team if you want to make a change?
Well, I mean, there are several impacts, right? And depending on the size of your organization, they the severity level changes for each of them, right? I would say the number one impact of not having that buy-in is ultimately going to be failure.
Mm.
If you don't bring everybody along and you don't set the expectation, right? You don't create a sense of urgency, and you have detractors. Those detractors are going to sabotage your change effort. And
Right.
all it takes is one detractor to start to build a set of behaviors where people don't believe in what you're doing,
Mm.
and behavior drives culture, right? And so if your behavior is if your culture is being driven by the behavior of your detractor, then your change effort will just fail. It's as simple as that, right? And
Mm.
especially I would say for organizations that are about 20 employees or less, they there's a huge benefit to change when you're a small organization in the fact that you have less employees, less human beings to change your mind. But there's a downside to that. You can have some individual employees who have been with you for a while, and their voice can be very loud, right? And
Yeah.
if they're not on board and they're a detractor from day one, then it's going to be an uphill battle, and everybody's going to be frustrated. So I think that's the number one thing that we end up seeing, at least in our experience.
Yeah. I mean, I see it as well from another side because we're introducing a level of change. Our change is actually to bring stability to an organization,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we see detractors internally. Sometimes it's one of the partners, sometimes it's a senior person, and they're just butting heads with the owner or the person trying to make change. And quite often it's because nobody went and talked to them and had let them vent. I talk about steam valves a lot. Like you got to let people vent a little bit before you do anything. Let's say you just want to change the kind of bar clamps you use. I'm going to use something really simple, right?
Yeah.
Just if I just come in one day and say, hey, we got these new bar clamps, deal with it. There's going to be all this talk in the shop and like, this place is a disaster. How could they do that? Blah, blah, blah. But if we instead have a conversation, talk about the pluses, the minuses, the pros, the cons, and maybe slow it down a little bit, put some strategy into it, I find that things get a lot easier
Yeah.
because people have had a chance to internalize it and think about it. And maybe they're going to bring up something really important that I hadn't, you just laughed at that.
Well, I mean, you're spot on, right? I mean, the steam vent analogy, it fits well. There's nothing more, I'll say, demotivating than let's just say you've been an expert in your field, right? You've been on the shop floor for 30 years,
Mm.
and you have someone come in and say, "Hey, we're going to be doing things this way," and you weren't even consulted or given an opportunity to share your subject matter expertise,
Mm.
right? And you're spot on. Having employees or peers be able to express here are my concerns with this before you get started.
Yeah.
Right? That's extremely important, and you want those sort of people to be on your coalition. There's a model that we use, the Cotter Change model. It's an 8-step model, and we use that with every single organization that we work with, because change is very hard, right? And one of those steps, step number 2, is build a coalition.
Mm.
And this is the piece of advice I would say to this particular point. If you're going to a change management effort, you're going to implement something new, you have to get those attractors involved and on the coalition immediately, right? And have the conversation and say, all right, let's express your fears, express what you're concerned about, and let's talk about here's how this particular change is going to benefit you in the long run,
Yeah.
right? And getting them involved at the very beginning is extremely key. Communicate, right? And I just love that. You're spot on. Sometimes all it takes is just a vent session. Just sit down, get a beer after work and be like, just talk to me, man. and what's happening, and that really goes a long way to building trust.
Yeah. So many examples and stories are floating through my mind. I'm going to get this story wrong, but the German submarine command realized there was scurvy throughout their ranks. They just weren't getting the right
Vitamin.
nutrition. You know this one?
No, I don't know the story, but I know it's scurvy. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, scurvy. So scurvy is a lack of, I can't remember what the vitamin is.
Vitamin C, I think.
Vitamin C, right? And one of the ways to overcome that is German sauerkraut, right?
I love it.
And so the captain of the submarine was tried to give sauerkraut to the men, and they didn't like it. So he said, "Okay, we're just going to give it to the higher level officers and not to the men. And we're going to give them heaping platefuls." And then he went to the higher level officers and said, "You got to eat it like it's delicious. And it's going to be exclusive on purpose so that everybody sees the officers devouring this sauerkraut. And they're like, we demand that we get sauerkraut."
I love this.
Right? They demanded it. And so the captain's like, all right, listen, I've heard you. We're going to give each man a ration of sauerkraut from now on. And of course, cheering amongst the ranks, and everybody ate their sauerkraut. And ultimately, the goal was achieved of not having scurvy amongst the ranks. I'm hesitant to use a German war story as a good placeholder, but that's one example.
Yeah, there's a lesson to be had there, right? I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of parents listening, right? Do the same thing with your kids, right? You influence behavior by how you act, right? And that gets into another key aspect to any sort of change. Is it's the golden rule, right? Treat others how you would expect to be treated. And if you want change to stick, if it's a new machine, if it's new software, if it's a new process, you got to own it, and you got to show the rest of the organization, hey, this works. See, I'm doing it, right?
Yeah.
You got to walk the walk, not just talk the talk, right? And I'm sure the sailors appreciated not getting scurvy. And while you're going through that story, I was just thinking, my fat white heritage here. I just want some sauerkraut on a Polish hot dog right now. So thank you. I'm hungry. It's lunchtime.
Yeah, sorry.
So,
but it is important that you find a way to get your team involved. And let me tell you one of the ways that I like to do it, but I'm opening myself up to your criticism and your redirection. Because you see a very important level of software implemented in very serious companies all the time. So let me, what do you call it? I'll expose my neck, and I'll let you comment, and I'm open to it. I want you to comment and criticize.
Yeah.
If I'm going to implement something really important, let's say we want to change our accounting system, just as an example. That's a big software change, right? It probably is going to extend over a period of time, 6-8 months. What I might do is casually talk to my bookkeeper and my accountant in-house and say, hey, what's the deal with our accounting system? We keep having problem X and problem Y. What would make it better? And this is a steam valve. They're just do that. Okay, great. Let me write these things down. Can we meet again next Tuesday? You guys think about it for a couple of weeks, or for a week or so, and then just, we'll sort of gather some info. And so they start to come to me and they say, hey, you know what we should do? I went and did some research. We should look at this software solution or this new tool, or I can't believe that we're still doing everything on carbon paper. I'm like, oh my God, all these things you guys brought to me. And then I might come up and say, I was just at a trade show. And I don't want to say a software. So I'll just say QuickBooks as an example. Yeah. Hey, what about QuickBooks? Would that work? And now everybody has this conversation. QuickBooks, there are pluses and minuses. Okay, well, before we go running down the path, let's figure out what we really need before we decide that QuickBooks is the answer, because it might not be. So that would be the way I would start the conversation, with a lot of steam valves. I want to get everybody's everything on the table. And if I do it really, really well, I want to do that a couple of times to make sure they get a lot of chances to vent.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll say I love that. I love that method, because it's like I mentioned earlier, you're starting to build that coalition without them necessarily knowing that change is happening and coming, right? It's a very organic way for us to think about what is our status quo today, what is driving us absolutely insane. Let's address those problems. don't even think about solutions. We're not here to talk about solutions.
I love it. Yeah.
Think about problems. I'm running this problem. I can't reconcile my invoices quickly enough. Great. Okay. I'm having an issue with payroll, right? It doesn't export out. You start to identify those things. Now you have a list of problems that you can ask these other vendors, right? What is your solution to this problem? Right. And getting people on board early before you just jump into and say, hey, we're switching to a different accounting platform. You're gonna get into just heaps of frustration. And
Yeah.
it's funny you mentioned, accounting. Every department at the millwork, at your average millwork company, they are receptive to change differently, right? I mean, some departments, some types of roles, I think, gravitate towards being a little more conscientious, a little more steady.
Mm-hmm.
Some roles kind of embrace the chaotic and nature and change a little better, right? And accounting in particular is one of those departments that is run by a set of double entry accounting rules.
Rules. Yeah. Rules.
Pretty set in stone.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's not a lot of wiggle room in terms of, well, we should do it this way or this way. No, they're experts. They know how to reconcile their books. They know how to do these things. They need to have a solution that enables them and makes their life easy. And if you make it about, hey, how can we make your life easy? How can we improve your life? The second you introduce, let's do something different. That's addressed to solve these problems that you guys identified.
Mm.
Now you have all the excitement in the world, and people want to see that change succeed. So I think that natural guerrilla tactics of letting people release that steam valve, right, and talk to you about what things are struggling, and you approach it from the standpoint of making their life easy. It's going to be an amazing initiative.
Face the problem head on, right?
Yeah,
there's I don't want to be the guy that quotes a book, but there's a great book. It's by Patrick Lencioni. It's called Death by Meeting. It's a great book. Ooh. Death by Meeting by Patrick Lencioni.
I'm writing that one down.
Yeah. I mean, how many of us are in that? And what kind of a dork goes and studies meetings except me and Pat Lencioni?
My staff would probably be like, yeah, Cole would probably read that book.
And Dom did. Anyways, one of the key points of that book is that you start a meeting with something like a bold statement. And the example they use is when you watch a TV show. Let's go back in time, something everybody understands. Friends. Like you watch Friends. That, I don't know how long it is, 20-second part before the big long commercials. It's supposed to suck you in.
Yes.
Right. We're going to watch this show, and they sell me on that first bit. We need to do the same thing in our meetings, but we also need to do the same thing when we're trying to implement change.
Sure.
Right. So guys, we just lost the job on the elementary school, right? 4 of us went to that elementary school. We should have won that job.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bold statement. Like, yeah, man, we should have gotten that job. Why did we, and it could come back to, we don't have time tracking. Mm-hmm. I'm going in another direction than QuickBooks, although it does come back to QuickBooks time. But if I want to implement change like time tracking, I've got to find a reason that it matters to my people, not just to me.
Yes. Yes. And that's what you just described on is number one. The number one step in the Cotter change model, that's creating a sense of urgency with your staff, right? You got to get people out of their comfort zone, help them understand that change is necessary because we're facing this problem, right? And the sense of urgency, it can be as simple as saying, hey, we're on a trajectory right now. And if we keep up with this trajectory, we will not be in business. And we've seen organizations that have a sense of urgency to say, hey, we need to change the way that we do things,
right?
Because we know we're not being profitable at this stage. We're picking the wrong jobs. We are losing money on the install. We are over purchasing material. All these things are individual problems, but they lead up to
stressed all the time. Our company's always forcing overtime.
Absolutely. Right. And a sense of urgency could be, hey, let's stop having overtime be our normal way of life. Like that could be one sense of urgency to have a normal work-life balance and to be a profitable organization.
Yeah.
And if you if you make that very public and that sense of urgency is very clear and it's communicated everywhere, you start the meeting, just like you said, with that very bold statement. You're gonna get people's attention. You're like, okay, yeah, I want to solve that problem. Here's how that would benefit me, right?
Yeah.
But I love that. The sense of urgency is a very key aspect to managing change.
Yeah. One of the challenges, and you maybe see this as well, is where the team is a little bit tired of I don't know how to describe the situation, but the overall theme is the boss read a book this weekend. Right? So imagine we'll just use Pat Lencioni's book, Death by Meeting. Yeah. So, and I'm the owner. I walk in and I'm like, guys, we're going to change the way we have meetings. And everybody's standing around. It's like, oh yeah, here he goes.
Yes.
This is regular Monday conversation. And so I'm like, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to make this change. It's going to be fantastic. And the two guys kind of standing off to the back whisper to each other, just wait till Wednesday. He'll forget.
Yes. I've heard this before. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We've seen this song and dance before. And you don't want to be that leader. You want to be the leader that says, this year, we're going to do one major implementation. We're going to make one major change.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. And now everything else that has to change along to get us there gets us to growing the business. Right? Mm-hmm. And you don't have to do it every single year unless you're working with guys like me and you. But you got to choose something that's your theme for the year: efficiency, operations, profitability, balance, values, whatever you choose. But choose that thing and make it the thing.
Yep. Yeah. I would agree 100%, Dom. There's such a thing as change fatigue, right? There's only so much capacity for a human being to change in any given time.
Yeah.
And if you're asking someone to change their behavior, you better make sure that it's the single most important priority for your organization, right? And if you've heard it before, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Well, I bet we could look at anybody listening could probably look at their own organization and think, well, we need to improve this process, we need to improve this, we need to improve this. You can't do it all. You cannot do it all. So you have to prioritize.
Yeah, that's
prioritization
right.
is extremely important. And I love that, right? There's a balance. I would much rather have the leader that comes in and says, hey, let's do this, let's try it for 3 months, and going a little too fast, right? Versus having a leader who is okay with the status quo and doesn't want to change. I think finding that balance of picking one initiative is the right approach. And when people change and they see how that impacts them and they're winning, it's infectious, right? Winning is extremely infectious in your organization.
Yeah, because you want to keep winning.
Because you want to keep winning, right? And then next year, you can start to tackle two things instead of one thing, right? Because you've changed the culture around a little bit, and people are behaving in such a way that they want to win.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so we've talked about the impact of no buy-in, doing it wrong and doing it. We talked a little bit about doing it right as well. Getting buy-in, talking to your people. You brought up something that I want to loop back to when you mentioned we were using the QuickBooks example. Mm-hmm. And you said other departments have an impact, but we may not think about it. We might, I immediately said, oh, bookkeeping, we're going to talk to our bookkeeper and our accountant. We're going to talk about this new, but there are other people in the company who touch or they either need to put information in or take information out.
Absolutely.
Right. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, I forgot about purchasing. I forgot about shipping, who has to print the labels and make sure it goes to the right place. Maybe install has something to say because the way the shipping label shows up from the billing invoice that goes where the data was wrong. You see what I mean? There's some other people.
Yeah.
And can you imagine being the owner who secretly in their mind wants to move to QuickBooks? Again, QuickBooks is not sponsoring this show, but secretly in their mind. And now suddenly they've got everybody clamoring around at the Monday meeting saying, we should really look at QuickBooks. And you're like, oof. I mean, if you guys want, okay. I mean, what do the people want? Yeah. And you've orchestrated this realization that your team needs more. They've identified it, and now you can move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And bringing your QuickBooks example, right? The checks in the mail. I'm kidding, but QuickBooks example, you may think it just impacts accounting, but project managers need to be involved with that conversation because that's going to help us change orders, invoicing, right? Cash flow and how you accelerate your cash. That's a single make it or break it aspect for small businesses, right? everybody is impacted by that decision. And that's why that, going back to that coalition, right? Try to have a couple of different people on the team. And it's you have a representative from accounting, have a representative from project management, from engineering, from estimating, right?
Yeah.
At least involved in the conversation, so their voice is heard.
Yeah. And you never know, you might find some greatness in there. But I'll tell you what, going and spending the money on any software, whether it's Innergy or QuickBooks or Sage, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But wasting that money is such a shame.
It is a shame. Yeah. It is absolutely. You need to get value out of what you purchase as fast as humanly possible, right? And that's kind of the approach that we take. We want to get all of our clients get value, right? And I think that any software, any machinery company, they're not out there to sell you something and they don't want you to succeed. No, they want you to use what you buy.
Of course. Yeah.
But in order for you to use what you buy, you have to have a concentrated change effort, right? A planned change effort. And that's why I'm loving this conversation today.
Let's take that comment from you and go talk about back from the brink.
Yeah.
Okay. So the owner goes to a conference and they come back, and I don't mind saying Innergy because it could be Innergy or a new CNC, or they might say Microvelt. Like we're all in on this new software.
Yeah.
And they come back. Have you seen where that has been a disastrous implementation? And if you don't mind, if you've got a back from the brink story where somebody started off wrong, hit roadblock, fail, time, wasted money, and then how did they bring it back from the brink?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really, really great question. And there's a few examples of organizations that I can think through where the implementation of our product, right, lasted 2 to 4 years, right? And that should never be the case. And it lasted that long because the organization thought that buying Innergy or buying a piece of software is a silver bullet. Like if I just buy this software, or if I just buy this machine or whatever the case is, it's going to solve all my problems, right? But they didn't realize, well, no, actually, there are other aspects that we need to keep in mind here. Purchasing the software isn't going to solve all our problems. We also have to have a change model in place so we can address these detractors. We can start to plan for short-term wins to build motivation, right? Yeah. We can create a vision. We can communicate that, and it's rinse and repeat, right? There is no single silver bullet to any problem in this industry. That I've never seen a silver bullet, right? It requires an integrated set of activities to solve the problem that you're facing. Software is just one part of it. A machine is just one part of it. A process is one part of it. But put them all together, then you're going to have a solution to solve that problem, right? And so, in this particular case, love these guys. They're still with us. They probably went through 2 or 3 rounds of what we would consider a failed implementation because they just jumped in and started using the software without thinking about standard operating procedures.
Oh boy.
Right. And go into it and then they come back to us and they're very frustrated because, we started using your software, but we're still releasing work in large batches and our throughput isn't increasing. Then we could start to have a conversation. Okay, well, you got the basics of the software. Well, let's talk a little bit about the concepts, right? Here's why you want to reduce your batch size. Because that increases throughput according to the theory of constraints. And so it took them a little while to realize some of those skills are required to be successful.
Right. And I wonder if, I'm just going to take a stab, was their engineer or technical drafter still releasing jobs the way he or she used to, which was one big Hondo, I'll just say $100,000 job instead of $10,000 jobs.
Yes. Yeah. One of the problems, right? And their throughput is the same.
And you don't, because they didn't have buy-in from, in that case, the engineer or whoever was in charge of making sure that.
Right. Absolutely. And it didn't take until probably the 3rd time they tried the implementation process for them to couple those other solutions into that process, and they were successful, right? And they've been growing since then, right? They've gone from 20 employees, I think they're 40 employees now, and we have a couple of stories like that. We have a client that just took a little longer to get up and running.
Yeah.
A couple of false starts, but over the years they've gone from 50 employees to 150 employees. So, and you know, it's again, there's no one silver bullet, and that's where you're going to fail if you come into this expecting I'm going to buy one thing and it's going to solve all my problems. No, it's an integrated set of activities across all of your departments.
Yeah, and it's so funny, but it comes back to communication. And guys are bad at communicating. Oh, and by the way, our industry is male dominated. It just is. It is. So we're kind of out there trying to I don't even know how to state it, but you see what I mean, right? It's a male dominated industry. Men tend to not be great communicators. We don't like having meetings. And you and I are here like, hey, let's get the guys together.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a bunch of meetings and talk about things. And everybody out there their brains are smoking out of their ears. They're like, dude, this is not.
I don't need a meeting to talk about that. People don't like meetings in general. And
well, you should read Death by Meeting by Patrick Lencioni. Turns out.
Yes.
Listen, meetings are for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Meetings are for a purpose. And if you don't have them, then the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Yes. And let me just put a fine point on it. My friend, if you're not having meetings in your company, you are wasting time and money.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And
just burning it.
Those meetings must have a strong agenda. They have to have clear expectations of what you need to prep for them. And, you know, Mark Sanderson, our CEO, he's done such a great job over the years of building a culture, a cadence at Wilkie Sanderson, where they have a weekly management meeting. Right. They have a weekly production meeting. They have a weekly invoicing meeting with the PMs. Right. And and if you have the, set agendas and you have expectations in terms of what you need to prepare, that organization could not function without a meeting. You can't go from 20 employees to 40 employees to 60 employees without these departments talking to each other. Yeah. And meetings are the way to do that. They just won't work if you're like, hey, let's meet about this, and you're not prepared. You don't have an agenda. Right.
Can I throw in on that? And I don't think I have the answer to everything. I don't. I'm still learning. I still get it wrong. But I do have a standard agenda. And the reason I want to bring it up is because there's people listening right now who are craving this information, and they're like, but now you want me to make an agenda every week for every meeting? I'm already busy. I'm behind on my estimates.
Yeah.
I'm not home in time. We didn't take summer vacation. My daughter wants to be in travel band. Now you want me to make agendas? It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a little trick. Can I tell you the little trick?
I would love to hear it.
You just have the same agenda all the time. And I can tell it to you right now.
Love it.
Here's how it starts. The meeting goes, hi, how are you? Now, imagine, by the way, that we're all standing up. So maybe it's the muster station meeting where you're doing, in the shop, or maybe it's the office and you're around the whiteboard or the big monitor. Let's imagine that for a second. So here's the owner running that meeting. We're all standing up. Hi, how are you? So everybody, hey, blah, blah, blah. Hi, how are you? But that's like 2 seconds. No, we're not going on long, right? I want to ask everybody, what are your numbers first? Get the numbers out of the way. When I ask for numbers, I want numbers. Any stories, anything like that is probably BS. So we get the numbers out of the way. If you don't know which numbers to track with your team, text me and I'll walk you through it, right? Anyways, hi, how are you? Numbers. Now you go, what's up?
Mm-hmm.
That's the agenda point. What's up? So I go, Cole, what's up with you? Now, the rule for Cole is he's got 30 seconds to tell me what's up in his department. 30 seconds. And I want it fast, like boom, 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 just headlines, right? Okay, great. So now I go to the next person and the next person and the next person. So now we've got, hi, how are you? Numbers. What's up? We've gone all the way around the circle on all those things. Now we're going to say, where are you stuck? So now I go back to Cole. Cole, where are you stuck? 30 seconds. So now Cole's got 30 seconds to tell me where he's stuck. Just headlines. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, great. Now who's going to do what by when? We go around the circle. Now, of course, I can hear people saying this because it's happened to me in my own companies as well. But Dom, you don't understand. Cole has to talk to Jenny because what's up and we're stuck. Jenny needs something from Cole. Cole needs something from Fred. They're not talking. And so here's what I do to keep that meeting on time. I'll say, listen, it sounds like we got a Cole, Jenny, Fred thing going on. So at the end of this meeting, can you guys stay here in front of the whiteboard? Talk it through, figure it out. But we can get through that. I can do that meeting with 15 or 20 people in 18 minutes.
I love it. Yeah.
That's the agenda. That doesn't change.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a brilliant way. If you're an organization that is not used to having meetings, what you just described on, that's going to change their life completely. I love that. Especially
keep it simple. Just keep it simple. Dead simple. And I can overcomplicate stuff. So keeping it simple is hard.
Oh, I think we all can, right?
Yeah.
And keeping it simple and respecting other people's time, right? It's just that it's an art. Hosting that meeting is an art, and your model is definitely something that will help organizations be able to, right, get to that next point A to point B is what Mark says.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I love it.
So we're trying to figure out how to get team buy-in for new software in our cabinet shop. We've got an owner who's interested in something new. We have to build a coalition or build a team of interested people. And so what I've learned here on this, and you and I have reiterated, is start together a group of people and talk about it.
Yes.
Let them vent their frustrations, get it on the table. What about the building of a plan? How do you like to see the plan come together?
Yeah. So we mentioned step 1, which is create a sense of urgency, right? We mentioned step 2, which is building a coalition. Step 3 in the Cotter change model is creating a vision, right? Define a vision for change. And that's going to fuel step 4, which is communicating the vision on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, right?
We're back to where we just were.
Yeah.
The agenda.
So that communication is extremely important. But the communication doesn't happen until step 3 is done, right? And the Cotter change model, there is an order to it. You have to start with sense of urgency. You have to get the right people involved, and that coalition, they have to be the ones responsible for building that vision, right? And the owner, the general manager, we like to refer to them as the executive sponsor. Some organizations have the owner very involved. The owners are very hands off, but they still have a leader, right, in the day to day. That executive sponsor is extremely vital to the success of a change initiative, right?
Yeah.
And so that person needs to be part of that coalition, and they need to bring everybody else along, and that coalition needs to own the vision and say, here's what our organization is going to look like. And you could use a walk, run, sprint analogy, right? What does the walk phase look like? What do the next 90 days look like for us? The run plan, what is 90 days to 180 days? The sprint, right? What does next year look like?
Right.
Because you're not going to be able to tackle everything all at once. So that vision, sit down in a conference room with a whiteboard. If you have remote employees, there are great tools out there like Miro, which you can use a virtual whiteboard and do some of that brainstorming together. And it's important to say, hey, brainstorming it's a safe space. There's nothing off limits. We'll take all those ideas and we're going to prioritize them. And that's going to be the framework for our vision. How this is going to impact this department, this employee, this department, this other employee.
Yeah.
And once you have that vision in place, communicating it on a weekly basis, saying, remember guys, what we talked about. This is our sense of urgency. This is our vision, right?
Oh, so you're going back and restating it again, like bringing back
Absolutely. Yep. We take the Cotter change model extremely seriously in the fact that we actually have our clients fill out a change questionnaire. It has nothing to do with the software. We're not even talking about clicks in the system, right? But it's how do you plan and manage this change? What are you doing to empower the team, which is the next step after vision, right? What are you doing to plan for and promote short-term wins? These are all things that are reinforcing with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
I have to share this with you.
Yeah.
So we've got a team of 4 coaches here, and we have our own internal coaching meeting. One of our clients was implementing a software that you know extremely well. I'm just going to say that. But they were getting stuck. The person in charge of implementation was putting up resistance where previously she had not been. And so me and the coaches were talking about this, and the suggestion that we landed on was, let's in the next coaching meeting with that client, go back to the client and say, let's give her that steam valve. Tell us everything that needs to happen for you to be confident moving to the next module. I'll just say, right? And now this woman is very capable. This company's marching along at a very nice rate. But what they needed to do was ask her, what are the absolutes you must have before we can do the next module? And she came up with 6 really interesting points. Well, guess what happens? Those 6 points now become 6. I want to call them agenda points. They become 6 priorities, but just 6, right? And now you go, well, okay, well, let's go talk to purchasing about this one. Let's go talk to the CNC guy about this one. Let's go talk to the installers about whatever it is, right? But you now have the list. At some point, we can also go back to this particular woman who's very strong in her position and say, we've accomplished all 6 things you asked for. You've been part of it. Are we ready to move to the next module now? Mm-hmm. And we're in the process of that, but we had to brainstorm it ourselves. How do we get over this, what looked like resistance, but was actually somebody trying to slow it down to make sure it didn't go too fast and fail?
Yeah. That's I love that story. And what you describe, that's just bread and butter short-term wins. That's what is referred to as planning for and promoting short-term wins. And some of them are going to come up naturally, right?
Yeah.
But you can't rely on that. And so, having that person have their voice being heard allowed you to put into place a plan to tackle 6 problems. And every time you cross off one of those problems on the list, that's a winning event, right?
Back to what you were saying earlier, right?
Right. That should get you motivated to keep winning. Let's build a culture where we air our grievances in a respectful, appropriate way, and cross them off the list.
Neutral tones,
right?
Neutral tones. It's just facts. We're just here to solve the problem. We're not pointing at people.
Yeah, and you can't solve every problem, and it just goes back to that prioritization. Of that 6 that in that example, I bet 1 was the number 1 priority, and that's where you start. You eat the elephant one bite at a time, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, my head is reeling, but I want to be respectful of your time as well. Yeah. So Cole, I mean, you and I met at the Innergy conference. I was there as a speaker, and you were there as a speaker as well, talking obviously about change and change management and implementation. And I think we've done a good job of not making this an ad for Innergy.
Sure.
Because that's not what we wanted to do here. We wanted to talk about we were talking about bar clamps at one point. It doesn't matter what the change is, right?
It's universal, man.
Yeah, it is. But if somebody's curious or has questions to find you in this big, massive world, that galaxy that's floating behind you on the YouTube screen.
Yeah.
How do we find you?
I think the best bet is just check out our brand new website, right? So we actually just relaunched our website a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's just innergy.com. So INNERGY.com. And you'll see that we have a very unique blend of an ERP system, enterprise resource planning system, built for architectural millworkers. And we blend that with industry education. And that's why we love talking to you, Dom, because you care so much about having these organizations grow and be profitable. That's what Mark's vision is. Mark's our CEO. He's been a woodworker for 20 years, right? He wants to see this industry change, right? And we're all very passionate about that. So check us out, Innergy.com. We have an event page, actually. You'll see it right in the middle. Every single month we have webinars. Those webinars are open to the public as well as our current clients. And then we also have face-to-face events all the time, right?
Yeah.
So every single month we have onboarding workshops that we do all over the country. We have regional events where we talk about things like one-piece flow, bottleneck thinking, right? Standardized agendas for project managers. So
go figure. Standardized agendas for
Yes.
I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. We live in the most incredible time ever, because if you dial the clock back 10 years, you had to go to one conference a year and sit in the right side room that had the right event to line up. And then you got that one piece of info. Right now, we've got these podcasts. I'm just speaking about my podcast. There's others.
Sure.
You guys are pushing out information.
Mhm.
And so the other day, I was feeling bad for other industries. I thought, where's the Mark Sanderson, the Dominic Rubino? I'm going to put myself in there. Where's the Brad Cairns? Where's the Paul Akers in the bakery industry? I don't think they have them. Now, I haven't gone to look because I don't care. But there is so much great IP floating around in our industry that if we can't choose one and follow it, it's kind of shame on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
it's a really good point. I love it. This wasn't the case 8, 9, 10 years ago.
not at all.
And it's awesome to see, right? Us thinking about education about how to run a business, how to be profitable in a business. And we still need the education on, what are the specifications for an ADA, sink and all that. But that's not what's going to change your percentage at your bottom line, right? And in your podcast, there's AWI, there's all sorts of industry education now.
Yeah.
And I love to see it. It warms my heart to see this industry transform over the past 10 years.
Yeah.
We have a ways to go, and we're dedicated to that mission. And so some exciting things to come for sure.
Yeah. When I tell my friends that I serve the architectural millwork industry, they look at me like, what? Do you want another coffee? Like, well, I don't even know what that is. What's architecture millwork? Or to them, it's kitchen cabinets. Like, you just talk to people that make kitchen cabinets. I'm like, yep. They're like, well, that's nice.
That's nice.
That's interesting.
Little do they know that's a $13 million industry in the North America.
Yeah. Craziness, right?
Yes.
So Cole, thank you very much. It's been great. Hey, do you mind spelling your name in case somebody wants to reach out to you on LinkedIn? Because you've got an interesting last name.
I do. Yeah. It is primarily of Swedish descent, which is superior than Norwegian if Mark Christensen ever hears an inside joke there. But my name is Cole, so Cole, and then my last name is Eklund, Eklund. Reach out to me at LinkedIn, have a conversation, check us out on our website. And I look forward to talking to any of your listeners about their business.
Yeah. Thanks, Cole. I appreciate it. I like how simple you make change management, which is what you do. So, and I get to see the results of it, by the way. I have a feeling you know the story behind the story of the 6.
I think I do.
Criteria that had to be met. So
I love that story.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Cole. I'm sure we'll have you back in the future.
I look forward to it, Dom. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Well. Cole, thanks very much for being on the show. I really appreciate your insights. It's always great to talk to you. Look, my key takeaways from this was if I want to introduce new software to my team, I have to involve them early. I have to show them what's in it for them, and then I have to support them. I've got to be there to remove the roadblocks and make sure that they know that I'm just as bought in as they are. I can't just assign it to them, turn my back, and walk away. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe so that more people find these episodes and we can add even more people to our community. Really quickly want to simplify and solve something for you. Before I do, remember, you can always grab the software tool. Just send me a text. You want to choose the right software for your shop. We actually had not a cabinet shop, but a overhead door company use this. And they had a lot of resistance because the mom in the business did not want new software. So every time they tried to buy something, she just put the kibosh on it. So we put this tool in place, had her part of the conversation from early on, and we got success. So if you want the software tool, again, just send me a text message, an SMS at 315-903-7853, and just say software, and then I'll know which professional development tool to send to you. Hey, listen, one of the challenges comes up here, and we just recently had a conversation with a gentleman who said, I feel like I'm spinning all the plates all the time, and the wheels are coming off the bus. And Mark, that's you. Right. So if you find yourself in a situation like that, do what Mark has done. Mark has sat down and tried to figure out why he's in that particular situation. And we did that on a phone call together. End of that call, he came to realize that he needed more time management skills and needed to get ahead of data collection. And I know it doesn't sound very exciting, but it's actually the answer that you've been looking for, is start to find ways to collect the right kind of information. The very first place you should start is tracking key metrics in your business. Once you know those key metrics, you have a look at what the future of the business is, and you're not just reactive in the company. If you want to know more about that, reach out to me. We'll have a conversation. It only takes a half an hour for our first meeting. I'd love to talk to you about how to track the key numbers in your business, what to do when you find the results in that, what to do when you're running things like the end of job report, the end of job summary, a dashboard, heck, the 1 hour calculator. We've talked about the 1 hour calculator on here a lot. If you don't have it, send me a text and ask for it. It's 315-903-7853 and just say go back report. It's the same as the 1 hour calculator. Anyways, thank you very much for checking in, folks. I appreciate having you here. And again, remember, this is just a thin soup replacement for the point in time when you and I can sit down, have a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, something like that across the table from each other. And I look forward to that more than you'll ever know. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.